Um, just so you know, your camera's off again.
Yep.
Okay, no worries. Hi everyone, my name is Alper. I'm the Education Content Manager for this year's CodeDay Labs. I'm happy to welcome Gurjot, and she will be talking to you guys about resume and interview tips today. And Gurjot, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little more, and then we can get started. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Great.
Yes, it does. Hi, everyone. Good evening. As he said, I'm Gurjot Bandasha. I'm the VP of Engineering at Bachelors. So it's a company which was started in 2017, and I was their first developer. And since then, we have been growing and been creating a lot of noise in the banking space. So we are in the fintech space. And on a day-to-day basis, I at least interview 5 to 6 people, and we have offices across countries. So we have one office in Bombay and the other one is in Alpharetta. And we're opening the third one in Singapore. And that's the reason I kind of go through a lot of resume and interview processes. So I'm just trying to provide you some techniques that can help you build your resume and also attend the interview really well. Like what are the small things that we look at, right? Not from a recruiter perspective, but from a person who's actually going to hire, from a hiring manager perspective, let's just say. So let's just get started. You guys are, I believe, are able to see my screen, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks great.
Okay. So what are we trying to accomplish here, or what are our takeaways for today, right? So we will try to understand what needs to be included in the resume. We'll actually go through some formats that you can use for your resume and what you should not be doing as well. So we'll be identifying the do's and the don'ts. And finally, I'll be talking about the STAR method that is used in the interviewing process. Okay. So what is a resume? For me, in a simple terms, a resume is nothing but like a billboard, right? When you're driving through and you watch a billboard, I mean, it should be attractive enough so that you kind of feel like eating that burger from that billboard or feel like calling that number and getting that discount offers, right? So it is basically the first impression that you kind of make on a potential employer, right? So that they kind of call you for the interview or try to get in touch with you. What is the purpose of the resume? The main purpose of the resume is to get you an interview. It should provide the employer a short, descriptive account of your work experience, your education qualification, your achievements, and your special skills. So, in short, it should tell them why you are the best, right? What is the standard resume format? Most employers prefer reverse chronological resumes. The reason being, it becomes very easy for me to see and say, oh, okay, is this person currently been working on the same things that I am looking for? Or has he done it on the past? And how, what are the, like, what am I looking at? Or if he has done it in the past, how past is it? Or how relevant it is? And stuff like that. So we always prefer reverse chronological resumes. Next, this is a sample resume right here. It is short, crisp. There are some parts that I've highlighted, which tells you what are the important things that we look at and in which order we go through the resume. So I'll be going through each and every section and explaining you what are the do's and don'ts in that section, right? The first and most important one is your personal information. We always include our name, we give an email address, we give a phone number, but it is always important to put your LinkedIn profile in there. If you don't put it, we are still going to search for it. We're still going to see how relevant you are to the industry, right? What are you doing in the industry and stuff like that. So a LinkedIn or a GitHub profile link is really, really important. Always make sure to use consistent branding. What does that mean? So do not use like words or do not use an email address that was created in your childhood, right? That's not even relevant to your name. Your nickname is used in your email address. Don't do that. Create an email address that is like your first name, your last name at gmail.com or something like that, which is more informative and it's like very clear to understand, right? Um, and the other thing that you should not be providing is your Facebook links, your Twitter links, and stuff like that. I mean, we are not trying to be friends here. We just want to know what you are professionally. Do not use crazy typefaces, fonts, or color. We don't like that. It should be simple. Like, okay, I have one phone number to reach that person, and this is the only email address that I can reach him with. Don't give additional informations or additional like email addresses. It just makes us sound that okay, you're not sure that you'll be available at that email address, which is very confusing, right? So that are the do's and don'ts in the personal information section. Next is executive summary. What is executive summary? Executive summary should be your 30-second elevated pitch where you explain who you are and what are you looking for. So it should approximately be like 3 to 5 sentences. It should explain what you are great at, most interested in, and how you can provide value to the prospective employer. In short, it should explain what are you doing in the past, what you are trying to do in the present, and what you want to achieve in the future, right? I just want to see that roadmap clearly right there. Okay, he's a very like ambitious person. He wants to do this. Currently, he's involved in this, things like that. What you should not be doing in your executive summary. Do not include a generic objective like I'm a professional looking for opportunities that will allow me to leverage my skill. That right there tells me that you have copy pasted it from somewhere else. And it shows me that you were not even interested in creating your own resume. And if you're not interested in doing that, that doesn't make me feel that you're someone who will get up every day to work or doesn't show me the energy that I'm looking for, right? Don't use the same executive summary. Try to tailor it for what the job seekers are looking for, right? So let's assume you're applying for a managerial position. Then you kind of tailor it to say that, oh, you have been a manager and you lead teams and this and that. If you're applying for a developer position, then you go into the sections of saying, oh, I have solved problems, I'm a problem solver and things like that. For a tester, it's like I find bugs very easily and this and that. So kind of try to tailor it to what they are looking for. Don't use the same one, right? It's very important because those are the few lines that makes me go through the resume. If I'm not interested in those, I'll be like, okay, not my kind of a person, or not, that's not what we are looking for. Coming to summary of qualification. Summary of qualification is the other section that we go to the next one, right? Like I see your personal information, I see your executive summary. Now I want to know what are the things that you have done or what are your strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that, right? So always list them in pointers. What are your strengths, right? Use keywords that are industry standards. Don't use jargons, right? Use like product owner, scrum master, financial reporting, and etc. Make sure to list them in the strongest to the weakest. So you're like, okay, I'm strong at all of these. And plus, I know these stuff as well, because those are the ones that we will cover in the interview first. And then gradually going down the lane, we'll go to the weak points, right? So that's how you kind of create your base. Do not make your summary of qualifications long. Don't list something that you have not started. I mean, just like you have just started learning it, you watched few videos, or you heard it from a friend, or something that, oh, this is a booming technology, let me just put there. No, do not do that. So if you don't know, leave it out of it. Don't use short forms or very high technological jargons like backend technologies. Instead, say that you're a JavaScript developer or Node developer, right? I don't want to, because backend technologies, when you use a word like that, you're like, okay, that could mean 100 different things to different people, right? Especially when you're a web developer, it could mean something else. When you're a data scientist, it could mean something else. So that's the reason, always make sure to use something that is relevant to the industry at that point. So identify the common keywords or terminologies or phrases that you have seen in the job description and try to put them in there. So how does the company like call a backend developer? Do they use the word backend developer, or do they use Node.js developer, or do they use web developer, right? So try to like get something out of the job description and like put it in your resume as your summary of qualifications, right? So you have to go through the job description again and again to understand that. Coming to your education. In education section, always include the most relevant degree or current study first. Always list the expected date of graduation. So if you have already graduated, put it in there. If you're going to graduate, put it in there. That information is really important when someone is trying to make a decision, because that tells us when are you readily available? Are you ready to join like the next day or a week after that or a month after that? Whatever it is, put it in there. List your options, your majors, your minors, your certifications, if you've done something out of the college and stuff like that. Always list your honors and your GPAs, because that kind of gives me an idea of what your potential is. If you have education's gap, do not hesitate to put it in there, like list it out. It's fine. At least we would have a conversation about it and understand if you had a problem and that's the reason you have an education gap, right? Always spell out the whole and full college name. Do not put abbreviation, assuming that just because you studied in there, everyone will know about that college. No, like put the full college name, put the right place where you graduated from and stuff like that, right? Coming to work experience, this is the most important section of your resume, because after all of that, if your resume is still attractive, I'm going to go in depth with the work experience. And this section is not just important for your resume to get selected, but it is very important when you're being interviewed, because you cannot put in something there that makes it attractive and your resume gets picked, and then in the interview you cannot change your resume back, right? So you have to stand with what you have said or stated. So that's why this section is very important. We have to list the most current, again, chronological, reverse chronological order, right? So we have to list the ones that you have been currently working upon, your current job employers first, and then the most recent ones on the top. Put the job title, use bulletins or paragraphs to go in detail with your job duties. Each descriptive phase should begin with an action verb. Always make sure that your current job description uses present tense and your past uses past tense, right? The previous job should be in past tense. If using bulletin format, include no more than 5 or 6 bulletin items per job. The last point, right, which where I say that provide the company description, that is really important, because sometimes when I'm looking at a job, right, I'm like looking at that person, I really like him, I want to understand whether this person comes from a company which is like a small scale company, a mid scale company, a big scale company, and stuff like that. What was that company culture, right, to understand whether he or she will be a right fit for me, right? Next, come quantify your achievements. It's very important that you do not go in detail that, oh, I did this, I achieved this, and all of that. Like if you were like, try to put some things that you did, not like as a team. As a team, we won this award. I mean, it's good to have that, but not in your own job description, in your resume, right? It's just that when you're interviewing, you can mention them about it. But if you have like individually achieved something, put in there, quantify it. What you should not be putting in your work experience. Never list out anything that you were not directly involved with, right? Don't give out sensitive information regarding the past firm. You cannot be talking about stuff that were internally decided. Some conversations that you sat in were like confidentials. Do not give that information away. Don't include irrelevant experience. So if you were like, you worked in some like burger shop like for a month or something and a part-time thing, do not give that information away. That's not relevant to the job that you're seeking, so do not put in there. Okay. Coming to technical skills, there is a very close relationship between the work experience and the technical skills. So if I see something in the technical skills section, let's assume you put that you're a Node.js developer for the past 2 years. The first thing that I would do is go to the experience on the top and see, okay, where were you using this technology? Which company? Which year did you use it? How were you involved in using that technology? So that is very important. So if you have a technical skill listed, make sure that in the work experience, you actually give them details of where, how, and when was it used. So if I see a technical skill like React, right? And when I go to your experience section, I do not see anything relevant to it. I'm like, okay, how do you have a technical skill like for 3 years of React and you don't have anything relevant in the experience section or work experience section? So those are the things that you need to be like, those are the things that you need to make sure that it's present in both the section. And it's like a story. So your resume should tell a story. Always make sure to list them in the way from strongest to weakest. Don't use alphabetical order. Always make them like give the years of experience, provide the skill level, like I have it in the snippet. So it kind of clearly gives me an idea that, okay, you are actually a Java developer, but obviously, it's XML, C, C++, and all of that information, right? That's really important. That kind of gives me all the details I need. What you should not be doing. If you have only read about something, some new technology and never experimented with it, do not include it, right? So obviously, if you have done some certifications and courses, you can include them right there. But again, the skill level will be just learned it, right? Never used it. You're not an expert, you're not an intermediate, and all of that. So you tell them, this is my skill level. I've just learned it, right? Do not, please make sure that you do not exaggerate about any technical skill, because that might get you in a trouble, right? During the interview, when a person looks at it, and asks you a question on that and you're not able to answer, that makes you look weaker, and that also impacts your confidence at the interview. So it's not, it's everyone thinks that the technical skill should be like 10 or 12 at least to get picked in the resume. No, even if you have like 4 5, that's enough, but those should be like strong points, because I'm looking for someone, obviously if I'm looking for a developer and I'm looking for someone who knows that technology, right? Not here and there and stuff like that. You can learn. At least what you know is what should be presented in your resume. Finally, coming to how do you prepare for an interview? Now let's assume your resume is ready, you have all your sections down to the point, you did what the do's and the don'ts are, so you got selected and stuff like that. So what do you do before you get into the interview, right? As I said, in a lot of the sections, we were actually tailor fitting the resume to the job titles or the job descriptions and stuff like that. So make sure to take the resume that was sent to that particular recruiter or used for that particular job and see what you had inputted, right? Go through your executive summary, go through your technical skills and see what did you change? What did you put in there? What were your strong points and stuff like that? So go through your resume in and out. Like, you should know it to the point, right? If they ask you, oh, I see that on 2015 you were at this position doing this, you should exactly know what you were doing and what you had listed. Okay, we will use the star method to go through the interviewing process, and I'll explain you about that in the next upcoming slides. You should create stories around your resumes. So if you have like job experiences, take a recent one, take a scenario, create a story, and always practice your stories again and again. So try to question yourself. Okay, what if they ask me this? What if they ask me, how did I solve this problem? So go through that thing again and again with you to get prepared for your job interview. Use a list of interview questions from online. People always think that, oh, obviously I'm not be going, I mean, they're not going to be asking me the obvious questions, right? Obviously, if you're going to attend a Node.js experience, like interview for a 3-year experienced person, they'll not ask you what is Node.js, right? But that's not true. They'll ask you, okay, what is the most recent version of Node.js available out there? Right. So it's always important to go and look at it, right? They might even ask you, what is the end of life of the software that you have been using? I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's important for people to know, right? Because that shows how much interest you have in that particular job, in the technology that you're using and stuff like that. So go through some basic interview questions and try to see some basic stuff before you like appear for the interview. Coming down to the STAR method. What is a STAR method? S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for result, right? S. What is S? S is nothing but what was the situation, when and where did it happen, give a background information about it. Task. Describe the challenge and expectations that the employer had from you and what did you do for that, right? Action. How did you do it? What tools and resources were used to implement it? Result. Explain the accomplishment, result, or recognition that you got after you did this. So in the previous slide, I told you to create stories around each of the experience that you have in your resume. So always use the STAR method, right? I'll take you through one example where I actually used STAR method to create one of the story from my resume, right? Here, this is my story, like crisp and short. And how did I reach to this story? It says grew product sales by 100% in 6 months by implementing a new training program and introducing employers to innovative sales techniques and marketing strategies, right? So this is short and crisp. This exactly tells me about what was the situation, right? At General Electrical last May, the product division was experiencing no profitability and slow sales. So that was the problem, or that was the situation we are in. What was the task assigned? I was challenged with motivating the sales force and developing a new marketing strategy. What is the action you took? I developed the new training program for sales representative, including innovative techniques and marketing strategies. What was the result product out of it, right? The product sales increased from $20,000 to $40,000 in just 6 months. So this is how you go through a situation, a task, an action, and a result. And that kind of gives you a story. And it's always important that you cover all these 4 sections when you're in the interview, because it makes it sound confident that you know, okay, what happened, what went down, what did you do, what was the resultant of it. It is always important to know what is the end result, right? Or okay, I developed blah blah blah, but why did you develop it? What was the impact that you made in the company? So it's always important for a person to know that yeah, I was making progress. I was making, like, my manager was happy with me because of this. And always try to include stories that not just like talk about your work, right? It also tells what is the extracurricular things that you did. So you should try to show yourself as, oh, I was assigned task A, but then I felt that task B is something that I need to be looking into as well. And I combine them and I try to give like innovative ideas and stuff like that. So trying to be out of the box. So those things are really important when you're trying to attend an interview. Those are the small things that the person looks at. Oh, yeah, he's innovative. He's helping his community. Like sometimes it could be as small as I created a document on installation because no one had it. It could be a normal, small, like a tool installation document, like a comparison tool installation document or something, right? Or a converter or whatever, right? But you help the community by just showing them a guide. Okay, this is how we do it, and this is the steps that we follow. That was not a task that was assigned to you, but that's something that you felt is a problem and you tried to solve it on your own. So try to include scenarios and situations like that as well. So this brings me at the end of the slide. I'm open to questions now. So let me know if you guys have anything.
Thank you so much, Gurjot, for that presentation. We already have a question in the Q&A. Have you seen that yet?
No, I'll go through it right now. What should be? Okay, so yeah, let me read the question out. It says, what should we say if we don't think we are great at anything particular or are not super ambitious? In your executive summary, so obviously you're applying for a job, right? There is something that you needs, I mean, if you're going to go to that job from 8 to 5, there should be something that kind of excites you to be there. And you just talk about, you take the job description and see, okay, what are they looking at, right? They want a person who will be able to achieve A, B, and C. So your executive summary should be like tailored to it. And it should say that, okay, I'm interested in doing this, and that, right? So you're just kind of tailoring it to what they are willing to hear or they want us to tell them, right? So that is how you tackle the executive summary at that point. And if you do not have a job before, right, and if you're a fresher, then you can actually tailor that. That's not a problem because your executive summary is just telling you what you're trying to be, right? So I said, right, you're explaining about your past, your present, and your future. So you can tell that in the past you have done these things. You graduated from so and so college and you did this and this degree. What happened in your graduation? Like, how were you different from the other students, right? You had this professor that liked you or something like that, something different. And then you can also say about future, where you say, I'm looking into entering the market and I'm interested in this and this stuff, right? I'm interested in creating web softwares because whenever I go through a website, these designs like makes me feel really excited about clicking here, clicking there. Or even if you want to be a tester, then you can tell about, oh, while I was going through our website, I found a small bug. It really excited me, right? Something like that. I have another question where it says, I notice I'm a recent graduate with experience. Do you have any tips for this? Perhaps a way to work school experience? Yes, sure. So in the experience section, right, if you were like, did you have any experience in past, when you want to put something in the experience section and you think that it is not relevant with what your education was, you try to put in stuff like, okay, I did my this certification, I was trying to learn these stuff in my summer. So if you like did not do any internships in the summer but you tried to do some projects in the summer, try to put the projects in there. And you can just say that I was self employed and I was trying to do all of these projects, right? I implemented ABC by following this website, and that was exciting. Things like that. So it's not just, we're not looking at, like, there are a lot of companies that are looking for people who are trying to solve the problem on their own, who are trying to get out of the box and trying to see, like, let's assume you were taught Python, but you were not taught how to use Python with databases or data frames and stuff like that, right? So if you implemented something, give them the statistics of that, right? So when you say result, you can give them that, oh, the end result was I took COVID data set and I created this and this, and I understood how it impacted. This helped me provide more visibility about it and stuff like that. So you can put things around that. I hope that helps to answer that question.
If anyone else has any questions, feel free to ask. The chat is open. We have one more.
Yes. Yes, it has to be. I mean, I prefer resumes that are like one page, to be honest. And if you're like too much experience, like you have 11 or 12 years of experience, yes, it can be 2 pages, but not more than 2 pages, because no one has time to go through in depth with the technical skills and this and that. And I think when you give a crisp resume, it shows that you actually invested time in your resume as well, right? When you're just bluntly throwing out like 3 pages or 4 pages, it just shows that, oh, you didn't have time to like go over it and you just put whatever you did. So it's always better to have a crisp resume, because the person who's actually reviewing it, your recruiter, is going through like hundreds of resume. The hiring manager gets like 50 of them, then he has to go through the 50 and pick which one he wants to interview. So there's a lot of processing going on there, right? So yes, it, I mean, if I see a 3 to 4 pages, I know I have to spend like more than 5 minutes reviewing it. Either I put it in the queue where I'm like, okay, I'll do this later and maybe I'll forget about it and things like that. So it's always better to like make it crisp as possible. Yes, if you're, yeah. The question is, what if you're changing careers and don't have much technical experience to list? Yes, you should not be putting irrelevant experience, especially if you're switching careers. I mean, yeah, if you were like a manager at a store and now you want to get into technical stuff, maybe you can like put the last experience that you had, like just the managerial experience, and like try to put everything in there so that it doesn't look like a gap. But don't go in detail of like, oh, I was a store rep first, then I became a manager and stuff like that. So don't go into details. Just one like level of detail is enough. But yes, you should be putting your code labs internship. You should be putting your projects that you did in house by yourself. And you should also be, so whenever you do a project in house, especially technical, you'll obviously be using some code integration software. So let's assume you used Bitbucket or GitHub. So put those links out there, which makes us see that, oh, yes, he has been doing this. He followed along. He completed this project. Because people, before joining the interview, I will go and click that link and actually see what you did. So that's helpful. The next question that I have is, I heard that some companies use a bot to scan resumes and that we should put specific keywords. How can I make my resume stand out more than more? Oh, yes, that is true. Some companies do use bots for it. And that is where I was saying that you should go through the job description. So the keywords that they're looking for is exactly what they had put in the job description, right? So you get a JD. That JD is really important. Do not just read the title. Oh, data analyst needed. Just don't go and apply for it. Read, because they kind of use some terminologies internally. Like we use ETL, right? Extract, transformation, loading. We use Kibana, Logstash. And so those kind of words will be there. But analysts, especially data analysts, can also use Power BI. They can use different Grafana and stuff like that. But what I would have in my JD is Kibana, because that is what we use, right? So when I use a bot, my bot will be looking for the word Kibana in it. And if you don't have it, then yeah, obviously it will not stand out. So always make sure that you tailor fit your resumes to your job descriptions that you have.
Thank you so much for those answers, Gurjot. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask. This is the time to ask. So I have a question that some people might be thinking about. Out of all of these tips, what is the number one thing you'd say that everyone needs to do above all else whenever they're applying to a new place or preparing their resume? Just the
So
number one thing.
yeah, sure. So the number one thing I got it from the number of resumes that I have seen. So the one mistake that I see everyone makes is their technical skills are listed. Like they list like 10 technical skills, but when you look at the experience, there are like only 3 or 4 that they actually used. The others are just listed. And I'm like, okay, what happened here? Like, did he not use it or did he just learn about it? What is going on, right? So it's always important to list the technical skills with the years of experience and what is the expertise that you have. Like, are you an expert in it? Are you a like level 1, level 2, whichever scale you want to use, right? So it's very important that way. Don't make that mistake, because if not in the resume, when you're in the interview, they are going to ask you questions around that. And if you called yourself like a mid-level person, and then when they ask you questions and you're like a junior level kind of a expert, they'll be like, okay, why did you say mid-level, right? Because our questions are tailored according to that technical skills section, to be honest. So always make sure your technical skills are not too many. Like people think that, oh, because of the bot, right? So there was a question that there is a bot out there, so let me list everything so that the bot picks my resume and later on I'll try to like cover it up for it. Don't do that. That's not going to work. Because if you put 12, 20, or 10 technical skills and you are actually applying for an entry level position, my initial question is like, okay, so you have like 10 skills. And I'm like, okay, I'm a VP of engineering. I don't have 10 skills out right there. So those kind of thing, that is the most important one, I think, that I would like to highlight here.
Thank you. Um, yeah, if you guys have any last questions, feel free to ask. Someone said thank you in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Um, then I believe that is all. Um, I have one last question actually that some people might be wondering about. So, you were talking about tailoring your resume to the job description that you're applying to.
Yes.
So, between applying to a high position like a manager and a lower position like a developer or a software engineer, um, how would you like what are some strategic moves to do on your resume that make it more specialized towards that position?
So, especially for an entry level, right? When you're trying to get into a job, you obviously do a lot of certifications nowadays, and you obviously have taken a lot of relevant courses, right? So, let's assume you're applying for a data analyst job and not a DBA job, right? So, when you're applying for a data analyst job, make sure to like list those majors on the top of the resume, saying that, okay, I majored in this, right? Something relevant to that position. And then even in the like courses, right? So let's assume you have done some certification and some projects of your own. List them on the top, because that kind of grabs the attention and someone is like, oh, he has used this. Okay, maybe even if it is just in a certification project that you used. Oh, he used this. Oh, and then there is a GitHub link out there that I can see. Especially when you're applying for like data related positions, if you did some analysis um, using machine learning and stuff like that, like or Jupyter Notes or somewhere, like put your Jupyter Note links tab in there so that person can like just click and play and see what actually happened. And or put a resultant in like a PDF format somewhere in your GitHub, so that once the person goes there, he can actually click and see that PDF and be like, oh, these are the things that he did. This is his analysis and stuff like that. When it comes to the senior positions, right, like managers and VPs and stuff like that, the most important thing is to list out how you tackled the situations, right? At that point, we are not looking at what skill set you bring. Obviously, you're skillful, and that's why you've been surviving in the industry for like past 7 years or 8 years, right? What we are looking at is what makes you stand out, right? And it's mostly around, okay, how did you handle this situation, that situation? So whenever you're putting in the 5 or 6 job pointers about your past or previous or the present job, like bring out situations in there, say that, okay, I was stuck in this situation, I helped the company in this way. And also the other important thing is, how are you like contributing to the industry, right? What are your extracurricular things? What do you like doing and stuff like that? Because we don't want someone who's like, okay, work, 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 and nothing else, right? He doesn't know what the industry is or the domain is and stuff like that. So when you like apply for higher level position, it's more of a domain knowledge rather than just the technical skills.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gurjot. Um, if you guys have any questions, this is your last chance. Just wanted to check. If not, I believe that will be all. If you guys could say thank you for Gurjot for having a great presentation and talking to us today, that would be great too.
I just had
Let's see.
one thing. You guys can follow me on LinkedIn, and as I said, we are growing like really fast. So that you would see that my own company has been hiring like crazy. So there are many, many job available out there. And we do take freshers and stuff like that. So please do go ahead and follow me so that you know what are the job openings coming out there and start applying.
Of course. Thank you so much again, Gurjot, for spending your time with us today. It was an
No
honor having
problem.
you here.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Same there. Thank you. Bye bye.